Tato Jayamudirayat. Canto 10, Chapter 13, Text 52. Animadyar mahi mabdir anjad yadbir vibhuti Chaturvingshati bis tatvai pratita mahad adibihi animadyar mahi mabhir ajayadbhir vibhutibhi chaturvingshati bis tatvai Parita mahad adibi Animadyar mahi madbir Ladies? Animadyar mahi mabhir anjayadbhir vibhutibhi chaturvingshatibhis tatvai parita mahad adibhi anima adhyai headed by anima mahima bhi by opulences aja adhyabhi headed by aja vibhutibhi by the potencies chaturvingshatibhi 24 in number tatvai by elements for the creation of the material world paritaha all of the Vishnu Murtis were surrounded. Mahat Adibhi, headed by the Mahat Tattva. Pretty interesting. All the Vishnu Murtis were surrounded by the opulences headed by animosity, by the mystic potencies headed by Aja, and by the 24 elements for the creation of the material world, headed by the Mahatattva. Quite a display. Purport. In this verse, the word Mahabhi, Mahi Mabhi, means Aishvarya, or opulence. The Supreme Personality of Godhead can do whatever He likes. That is His Aishvarya. No one can command Him, but He can command everyone. Shad Aishvarya Purnam. The Lord is full in 6 opulences. The yoga siddhis, the perfections of yoga, such as the ability to become smaller than the smallest anima siddhi, or bigger than the biggest mahima siddhi, are present in Lord Vishnu. Shad Aishvarya Purnaya Iha Bhagavan. Adi Lila 1:3. The word Aja, means Maya, or mystic power. Everything mysterious is in full existence in Vishnu. Paragraph. The 24 elements mentioned are the 5 working senses, Pancha Karmendriya, the 5 senses for obtaining knowledge, Pancha Gyanindriya, the 5 gross material elements, Pancha Mahabhuta, the 5 sense objects, Pancha Tanmatra, that makes 20, the mind, manas, the false ego, ahankara, the mahatattva, and material nature, 24. All 24 of these elements are employed for the manifestation of this material world. The mahatattva is divided into different subtle categories, but originally it is called mahatattva. Well, there's 2 parts of this. One is what's being displayed before Lord Brahma, and what is he describing? He is describing that each of these enumerated entities were personified. And the personifications of each of these were present before each of the forms of Lord Vishnu, and then going forward, each of them were offering prayers. Don't do it again. How many forms of Lord Vishnu were there? As many as there are cowherd boys and calves. That's how many Vishnu forms. And for each one of the Vishnu forms, there were all these entities. Each one, there was all these entities. And each one of these items identified were personified, because behind everything is person, and that's what Vishnu is displaying to Brahma, because Brahma wanted to see what's the limit, what's the extent of the potencies of this little cowherd boy that just killed Aghasura. Is there a limit? Let me test my potencies against his potencies and see what he's going to do. So he does. And he displays exact forms, replicas of the cowherd boys, simultaneously with each cowherd boy and each calf, a form of Vishnu or Narayana. Because later in the prayers, the next chapter, he's going to say, Brahma is going to say, are you not Narayana? Because all these forms of Narayana were manifest from Krishna. And then there's the logic that Brahma applies. Yes, you are Narayan, and he gives his reasons why, besides the forms that he saw. You're the shelter of all Naras. Therefore, Narayana, then etc. So the image that he's seeing, which is chapter 13, is all these Vishnu forms, each one surrounded by all these other Shaktis and opulences and potencies, and then they're by name they're identified. At least by group, they're identified. And a member of that group is named. For example, Aja. Headed by Aja. So going to the purport, because the very same, what's here in the 10th canto, chapter 13, also is identified in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So those of you that like to cross-reference, this is a good place to go. You can go to Chaitanya Charitamrita and find the same reference. The purport indicates where you can find it. And all of these potencies are identified there, as well here. Here the list is much shorter. But there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the list is much longer. Here it's just headed by. the word, this is in the bottom of the first paragraph. The word aja means maya, or mystic power. Now, how many meanings are there for maya? There's like so many meanings. So that is to say, it takes a careful reading, or it takes a guide who's capable of careful reading or disciplic succession to help us understand which of the multiple options of maya is being mentioned here. Because maya can mean many things. So maya here means mystic power. So he has mystic powers. So his mystic powers headed by Aja. And then going forward, so at the very beginning, Anima. So Anima, becoming smaller than the smallest, Mahima, bigger than the biggest, and then 8 powers. Those powers are sometimes invested in living entities that become mystic yogis. And they may manifest, but it's borrowed. It's not there. If they're honest, they'll say it's not me. If they're dishonest, they'll say it's me. Or foolish people think this is God, because look at this, look at this, look at this. It's mysterious, it's mystical. But all mystic powers, anima, etc., beginning with anima, it's a power of the potency of the Supreme Lord. Vishnu, or Narayana, or Krishna. Krishna's power. And one may be able to, by subtle methods, tune into that potency, and then that potency not just by the effort of the yogi, but by Krishna's mercy. The Krishna may bestow that capacity, that mystic power, upon the yogi. And again, the dishonest yogi is fine with having people claim that they're God because something. Prapti Siddhi. Prabhupada told the story. His father, Gaur Mohan, would regularly invite sadhus to come to their home. He's a cultured sadhu, or a brahmana. The Day family is from the Gautama Gotra, Prabhupada describes. So his father, being a qualified brahmana, would invite sadhus to come to their home and offer them meal and dakshin and hear from them. And one sadhu was invited to their home who had the mystic power Prapti Siddhi. Prapti is one of the 8. So he could obtain something from a distant place. I've heard this narration, in lectures multiple times. So someone said, what would you like? And someone said, I'd like a pomegranate from Afghanistan. And there they are in Calcutta. Like a pomegranate from Afghanistan. The man extended his hand, and there's a pomegranate from Afghanistan in his hand. And Prabhupada said, by examination, the stem was still dripping from the pomegranate was growing on the stem of a pomegranate tree. So he was able to obtain Prapti Siddhi, something from a distant place. Just like, voila, magic. But it's not magic, it's a mystic city. And mystic cities that originate in, or the resting place of them, is Krishna. So someone may, for some, perverted or some strange reason, they want a mystic city. or walking on water, and flying in the air, and lighter than the lightest, and anyway, walking on water. Christ walked on water. He had a mystic power. And anyway, yogis can do such things. Not just, for example, in Ramayana, Vali had such a power. He very, very powerful. He would travel from one place every day. He'd visit the Char Dhams and take a sacred bath in each of those 4 places every day before Mangal Arati. He had a busy morning, but he could travel very quickly. And that's the nature of such mystic power. Not only they can travel, but they can travel zoom, like real fast. Durvasa Muni had such power, all the way to the spiritual world and back again. And so, 1 hour. And who knows? What's 1 hour? Anyway, very quickly. There's a nice passage in Mahabharata where, towards the end of their exile, Vyasadeva visits the Pandavas. They're in exile in the forest. And Vyasadeva visits them. And they're very happy to have Vyasadeva's association. And he makes a request. He wants to have a conversation with Yudhishthira privately. So they go to a private place, and Mahabharata says, Vyasadeva informs Yudhishthira, ABC, your exile is nearly complete. You're going to go into this incognito phase shortly, and a slight there's going to be a war, basically, without all the background. And I suggest that when Arjuna was born, it was prophesied by this voice from the sky that he will obtain celestial weapons. Now's the time. He's going to need those celestial weapons. You Pandavas are going to need Arjuna to have those celestial weapons. So here's a secret mantra. It doesn't say what the mantra is. And by this secret mantra, when the right time comes, you give the secret mantra to Arjuna, and Arjuna can travel distances swiftly, because he's going to need to go into the upper regions of the Himalayas swiftly. So when the time is right, you give him this mantra. So that was a mantra. It wasn't a mystic city, but zoom. So there, maybe it's a story, right? Mahabharata's just a storybook, and for foolish people that like simple stories, and it's for simple people that like simple stories that are foolish people. Some people have that view, Mahabharata, and other people don't have that view. It's historic. So there are mantras there are cities and mantras by which one can transition from point A to point B very quickly. Big distances very quickly. Beyond normal, beyond transportation systems otherwise. The point is that where do these powers come from? They come from the source of everything. And some people have qualification to access them, and most of the rest of us don't. But the point is, they're potencies of the Supreme. Just like Lord Brahma. Where did he get the power to build the universe? It's not his power. He was invested with power. So he could build the universe. If you're not invested with the power, you can't tie your shoelaces. You can't do anything without the power to do so. So anyone's power's ability to do anything comes from the source of anything, everything. And so he, Vishnu, is reciprocating with the curiosity of Lord Brahma. What's the limit? So he's seeing there's no limit. So back to the list. All the Vishnu Murtis were surrounded by the opulences headed by Anima, said he, by the mystic potencies headed by Aja, and by the 24 elements for the creation of the material world. Now, how do you get the 24? It's established here. It's very simple. It's found in other places within the Bhagavatam. This is Canto 10, but a standard place to find it also is Sankhya. In Canto 3, Kapila's teachings of Sankhya, same 24. And then sometimes it becomes 25, etc. So the 24 are easy. When you get the 24th is Prakriti. So 10, 10, 10, and 10, 20. And then the subtle, mind, intelligence, false ego. That's 23. And then Prakriti. So Prakriti is like a big warehouse from which many things come. Here the three, mind, false ego, and Mahatattva. Now it doesn't include here in this list of 24, it doesn't include intelligence for some reason. All 24 of these elements are employed for the manifestation of this material world. The Mahatattva is divided into different subtle categories, but originally it is called Mahatattva. So the origin and the divisions of that origin. And that's the topic for this morning. So one more time. The curiosity of Brahma is being satisfied. Now Krishna didn't have to, but Brahma's a dear devotee. There's a nice question-answer. Question. Brahma is one of the 12 Mahajans. Yes? Yes. Swayambhu. And this one of the 12 Mahajans went and made an offense. He kidnapped the cowherd boys. He interrupted Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. Like, that's offense. It's not just like boo-boo. It's an offense. So how can, the question placed to Prabhupada, how can such an exalted person do this? How can an exalted person make offense and still we call him a Mahajan? And there's two answers, common answers. It was induced by the personality of Godhead, Krishna himself, to reveal to his dear devotee, just like Arjuna was put into illusion, and Krishna gave Bhagavad Gita, so Krishna's giving Brahma a chance to display his wonderfulness, and for Brahma to develop, because the flow of all this pastime is, Brahma desires residence in Vrindavan. In chapter 14, that's his appeal. Krishna doesn't grant it for one reason, at least, and that is Krishna wants Brahma to finish his duty. of, being the engineer of the universe and, that important role that he has in the universe, please, for the duration of the universe. That's a long time. So Krishna doesn't say no, but the pastime is enacted so that Brahma can have that super elevated desire, as opposed to being the creator of the universe. He now wants residence in Vrindavan. That's big. So the pastime is enacted for that purpose. And then for edification and so many other reasons. So how did Brahma make such a mistake? Krishna induced it. By Krishna inducing Arjuna to be bewildered. How is that possible? Krishna induced it. That's how it's possible. For the sake of giving the teaching of Bhagavad Gita one more time during this particular appearance, because in previous appearances Krishna gives. Did you circulate that little excerpt? Just mention it, since it's already circulated. Prabhupada gave, what to me was an astonishing statement. So here, it was in a correspondence between Prabhupada and one of his female disciples, Saradiya, December 1968. So that's like really early in the movement. And Prabhupada was expressing in this part of his letter to her, there are personalities like, and he named specifically Arjuna and Kunti, that are Krishna's eternal associates, but they're not in Krishna Loka. Eternal associates in this material world. Eternal associates of Krishna in this material world. So when Krishna moved from this universe to another universe, his pastimes continue, Arjuna goes with him. Or he's always with Krishna. Krishna's eternal associates. And it's not just in the form of Arjuna. There's many. Like, for example, in chapter 4, Krishna says, you were present when I spoke to this knowledge of the sun god Vivaswan. Now, what was the form of Arjuna when that took place? Was it the same Arjuna that took place in a subsequent yuga, or in different form? It's the same entity. The answer, same entity, a different form. And Prabhupada goes on to say, just as Krishna can expand, Arjuna can expand. He doesn't give the technology, but as Krishna can expand, Arjuna can expand. So there can be multiple manifestations of Arjuna chronologically at the same time, because he can expand. Like it's mind-blowing, for me at least. Eternal associates not in Goloka, in this material world, in recycling, so to speak, for the purpose of assisting Krishna in his pastimes and loving exchange with Krishna, because Arjuna's bhaktosi me sakha cheti, and that the form may be whatever the form is. The science of Krishna is profound. So tomorrow morning's verse, I guess it's going to be tomorrow morning, not tomorrow morning. The next verse is very long purport, text 53. Nice verse, very long purport. Because more entities are being manifest than the ones mentioned in 52. Without going into it, because that's because of time. It's mind that Krishna is the source of everything. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matak sarvam pravartate. is being expanded in here, in this section of the 10th Canto Bhagavatam. What does that mean? Or what are some of the parts of what that is? Krishna is the source of everything. There's everything. That which makes up everything is many, 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 powers and potencies and manifestations, and they're all coming from Krishna. And Krishna can expand them, or Krishna can withdraw them at will. He doesn't need permission. He doesn't need sanction. He just wills, and voila. It's an amazing, and so that's reality. And Krishna is divulging to Lord Brahma and then to us what's reality. Krishna is the source of everything. So we may not see that connection, between everything and the source of everything. But one who is knowledgeable in the scripture, at least one should know in principle, then what to speak of being able to see like that. And that to see like that's the Uttama Adhikari can see like that. They don't see otherwise. They don't see things disconnected from the source. They see everything connected to the source. And, that seems like mind-boggling. Your mind is going to short circuit because it's too much. So there has to be, mind expanding or mind empowering. And this sound vibration is a starting point, just by hearing. Because otherwise, what do we know? Little something distorted. What to speak of knowing a little something properly? What to speak of knowing everything? Not our capacity. Okay. What's the time? It's time to end. Let's see if there's some discussion. Yeah. So your question is, did he actually see it? Yeah. It's not a what? Quantity? Okay, I know what the terms are. What's your question? 24 to 28. You know the answer to that question. There are different ways of analyzing, and this is one way. So say this is not a right way because somewhere else it says 28. There's different ways of counting, different ways of itemizing the totality of everything. There's 24, becomes 25, becomes... So there are different ways of analyzing. Right in the Bhagavatam, this is Canto 10, but this is what Shukadeva Goswami is narrating what Brahma saw. So it's different way, different lens, looking at the same thing.
Hare Krishna. So just a reflection, Guru Maharaj, Lord Brahma could not be in Vrindavan, like you mentioned, but the later in Chaitanya Charitamrita, isn't he like the partial incarnation of Haridas Thakur? So he got to then have pastime and associate with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all of them.
Well, be careful how you connect this dot with that dot. That Haridas Thakur is Lord Brahma. What does that mean? You're doing a chronological thing. It's not necessarily a chronological thing. Certainly, chronologically, Haridas Thakur appeared after this pastime of Krishna's appearance. Certainly, that's a fact. But it doesn't mean, Brahma became. He changed his, the external, and he became Haridas Thakur. It's this same understanding of, in some places, Gauraguna Desh Dipika is a book that describes in Krishna Lila, there's a counterpart in Gaura Lila. And then sometimes the person in Gaura Lila has multiple personalities. Does that mean there's multiple jivas inside one body? A Gaura Lila personality? No. So what's the explanation? The explanation is there's a bhava expansion within that entity. So the eternal associates of Krishna, may have expansions, a bhava expansion, and that mood. So if that's a bhava expansion, what's the soul of Haridas? Because one question leads to another question leads to another question. So it's an expansion of, but it's not he became. He changed, the garment, the covering, from Brahma to, but that's during his lifetime. So how did he change? It's an expansion. In the mood of the bhava expansion. It's science. So now back to your question. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I was just thinking about the reciprocation of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's how I was thinking.
Okay. Well, he honored, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu honored Haridas Thakur in a triple special way because of his birth, and yet, to illustrate an important teaching of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it doesn't matter. It's consistent with the Bhagavatam, but it doesn't matter what family one is born in. For example, lately I've been listening to the recordings of Srila Prabhupada speaking on the prayers of Prahlad to Lord Nrsimhadev. Really nice section. And again and again and again, Prahlad is saying, those that are on the one hand, on the other hand, Brahmanas that have achieved all of the Brahminical perfections, they're lesser than the person who's not born a Brahmana and doesn't have all those spiritual perfections, but they're devotees of Vishnu. Genuine devotee of Vishnu, it surpasses the qualifications of a Brahmana are already within plus. Now we don't have the qualifications, but we're devotees. So the idea is we continue, the teaching of Prahlad is, when one who continues with bhakti, the qualifications come. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavat yakinchana, etc. The qualifications come. So just the emphasis in Prahlad's teachings is Bhagavat Bhakti, please. And then qualifications come. So, and that person who is engaged in Bhagavat Bhakti, they're superlative, they're superior and superlative to a Brahmana that has all these endowments, perfections, siddhis. Because bhakti is beyond that, or the fruit of that is bhakti, if one continues with that. Any of these special endowments of living entities from potencies of the personality of God, Bhagavat Bhakti is superlative. So, I'm going off in that direction because Haridas Thakur had powers. He had powers that worldly people couldn't understand. But where do those powers come from? From the powerful. Beaten in 21 marketplaces and not a mark on his body, and the Kazi was bewildered, what's going on here? Anyway, so powers come from the powerful. And although his birth was not high, he was given the position of the highest respect by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur was a designation given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Haridas, appropriately, not based upon birth. That's why this connection, the devotee is superior to one who has all Brahminical perfections. Haridas Thakur didn't have Brahminical perfections. He had bhakti perfection. So, from a low birth. So back to the starting point of your question or the comment. He's not Lord Brahma. He's a manifest. We say he's Lord Brahma in Gaura Lila. In Gaura Lila, Haridas Thakur is Lord Brahma. But then you'll go more deeply into it. What does that mean? Doesn't mean he changed clothes. Brahma put a sign up on Brahmaloka and said, "I'm sorry, I'm going to out to lunch. And I'm going to take part in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes back in 125 years. Or 48 years, or whatever." So, didn't check out. It's just a different understanding. Okay. Are we ready for any other question? Discussion? Srila Prabhupada ki